Zimbabwe has a population of about 50 million people. 4 to 7 million people are generally accepted to be living in the world abroad in the Zimbabwean diaspora. Most of those, averaging about 2 to 5 million people, are found in South Africa, which is one of the countries with a lot of Zimbabweans living abroad. Amongst those other countries with a large number of Zimbabweans are Botswana, Australia, United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, and America, just to mention but a few. But to tell you a little secret, go around the world, I bet you are gonna meet a Zimbabwean. I'm a statistic and I'm a victim of Zimbabwean migration too. The question of the day today is, why do Zimbabweans keep moving out of the country? If you're interested, let's get into it. So, hello everybody, I'm your host Phiwe. Today we're going to be talking about why Zimbabweans migrate. This is a conversation that has been going on for a long time, post-2000 in Zimbabwe, and a lot of reason has been cited as to why people are migrating out of Zimbabwe. I'm a victim also. I've been asked by a lot of people why I came to America, how I came to America, what is the situation back home. I know a lot of people know what is basically happening in Zimbabwe, but if you do know, maybe this is going to rehash your memory. If you, however, don't know, this could be something that's going to be assimilating information or disseminating information to you today. Amongst the biggest reasons why Zimbabweans migrate is the obvious economic decline of the Zimbabwean economy. That means that a lot of people have been struggling to find employment to fend for themselves. This is why a lot of Zimbabweans migrate out of the country. They are being pushed out of the country because of a very huge bad economic situation. Consequently, it means there is a high unemployment because of a large number of industry closed down and a large number of companies not existing to employ people. A lot of people resort to self-employment, but all these things don't work well for them because they're supposed to be people who are buying, but people don't have money because people don't have jobs. What that therefore means is people have lack of basic resources. This speaks to access to healthcare. This speaks to access to food, sanitation, shelter, water, just to mention but a few. This problem persists mostly for people who are living in the rural areas in particular, because those people are not exposed to all these other things that people in the urban areas do have in Zimbabwe. But even though that is the case, they all suffer equally in terms of how the economy has affected them. This is why a lot of people are migrating to South Africa. This is why a lot of people are running out of Zimbabwe. It's because of the bad economic situation. As a result of a bad economy, there is chronic poverty in Zimbabwe. There's a lot of people who are still living below the poverty datum line, and a lot of people still live below $1.50 a day in Zimbabwe. $1.50, like $1.50. Those are the things that push people out of Zimbabwe consistently and have the numbers rising each and every day. Some cite political and civil unrest. Well, that's a very huge conversation, very debatable, but if you have been to Zimbabwe, you would understand that these things are actually true. Politicians at some point forget about the people who they're supposed to serve, and therefore it all plunges into a wayward system of poverty, and then people don't have a better lives and they have low standards of living. A lot of people also move out of Zimbabwe in search for education opportunities. We have seen a lot of people who are out of Zimbabwe in Europe and Poland, Greece, China, America, UK, South Africa, just to mention but a few. These people, most of them, fortunate ones, have gotten scholarships so much that they can further their education and therefore get employed and then send money to their loved ones back home as remittances, which is a very great thing when you have the opportunity. But people don't understand that a lot of people don't have these opportunities, that therefore migration is not possible for them. But I'm not saying everyone should leave Zimbabwe. I'm just stating the reasons why a lot of people find themselves across the borders of Zimbabwe. It's all because of these things. Look, search for education, economic opportunities, basic employment opportunities, a better political space, and just running away from severe human rights violation, which we will not maybe talk about in a future video. One of the things that attract people in terms of pull factors that have people migrating out of Zimbabwe is in search for freedom of expression. Other people have been exiled out of Zimbabwe, but other people choose to leave for themselves so much that they can explore these other opportunities where they can freely express themselves without fear of being imprisoned or fear of being able to allow to express themselves. This is a very great thing that you find in developed countries like South Africa and in more liberal states like America, United Kingdom, and all the other European states. So people then move out of Zimbabwe, search for this better opportunity. In as much as this reason might sound a little bit bougie, but some people just go out of Zimbabwe for better aesthetics. You know, when you go to South Africa, the infrastructure is good and people, you get better housing and better opportunities and free access, easier access to all this fancy technology and all these things, because majority of the youth want the lifestyle that they see on TV or they see in South Africa or they see in Europe or they see in America. This therefore pulls them to move out of Zimbabwe. And yeah, man, we want internet, like fast Wi-Fi. And Zimbabwe is really struggling, but kudos to Strive Masiyiwa, one of the biggest businessmen in Zimbabwe, who's actually trying to provide internet. But the tariffs are very high, so much so that people can't access these resources like cheaply or at a very low rate, given the fact that a lot of youths don't even have a constant wage to fund for their phone bill. These are some of the reasons why Zimbabweans migrate out of the country. You know, in Zimbabwe, it's a very hard to earn a living out of the creative arts. If you're a comedian, a musician, you're in the movie sector, you are trying to do poetry and all these other things, or you're a painter, you will struggle. A lot of musicians attend vendors or self-employed only because of trying to pursue their creative arts dream, which is very problematic considering that a lot of people are trying to lead their lives through arts. But when you go to countries like South Africa, go to countries like the UK, go to countries like America, these people are actually making a living out of what they're doing. I mean, come on, in America you can make a living just by being an Instagram influencer. Same thing when you're in the United Kingdom, you know? But that's not possible in Zimbabwe. Only the big celebrities get that chunk, but even for them, they're still struggling. We have comedians like Nego who have left the country, just to mention just him. But there are a number of musicians we can talk about today that have left the country in search of better opportunities so that they can fend for themselves through their God-given talents. So all those things are eminent in Zimbabwe that we live in today, or a Zimbabwe that exists today that I had left. And these are things that we constantly face as Zimbabweans that people don't know or people should be educated about. This is why people migrate from Zimbabwe. There are many other reasons, but we can talk about them in a future video, or you can leave in the comment section below and then we can talk about them in the future. Next up, we want to ask ourselves the question, who is to blame for all these reasons why Zimbabweans find themselves across the border? A lot of people have cited historical effects as still a consequence of or a cause of Zimbabwe's economic decline. Things like colonization, economic sanctions, and just to mention those few. Personally, I believe it is poor African management or poor leadership. Ask anybody who has been to Africa, they'll tell you that corruption is so rampant, so much so that people who are supposed to be getting services from the government eventually don't get these services. That is very problematic, right? Someone once said that corruption is everywhere, but for Africans, the cake is smaller. So whenever you cut a slice, the effect is felt. But either way, we still don't condone corruption, or we still don't condone the wastage of resources and natural resources and people privatizing all these things at the expense of the general population. We can talk about a lot of instances where Zimbabweans have suffered from poor governance and therefore being propelled or spared to eventually want to leave the country. This conversation is being had with an assumption that a large number of people want to move out of Zimbabwe or wants a better Zimbabwe. So the only thing that we can be in consensus agree is that there is an economical degress within Zimbabwe and poverty is rampant, so much so that we need to address these things even as a youth outside Zimbabwe. So those are some of the reasons, and we can only blame no one but the leaders that we have in Zimbabwe. On a lighter note, why did I migrate out of Zimbabwe? For all those reasons, but how did I find myself on the other side? Well, mine was really necessarily an act of God, because I know a lot of people have been asking me, how did I get to go to America? what can you do? A lot of people just come to America through scholarships, exchange programs, and all these other things. But for me, it was family-based migration. So my mother had been here for a very long time. This is how I eventually got myself a visa to come through this side. But what I can say is I really appreciate all the people who are working hard and hustling, and it's going to be rewarded to them somehow, and they're going to be moving out of the country. So these are the reasons why Zimbabweans move out of the country, and this is why I found myself on the other side of the country. But all this comes with a lot of effects. For me personally, it was about being separated from my family and being separated from dear loved ones and all these things. Immigrants face all of these things, which you can also mention in the comment section, and it's because of a failed state, that a mother that is failing to take care of themselves. The biggest question that remains after all this is, if you were the president of Zimbabwe, what were you gonna change to improve the livelihood of Zimbabweans, so much so that we're gonna have all the people who are living in the Zimbabwean diaspora wishing and wanting to come back to Zimbabwe? If you could change anything, what would you change? Please leave that in the comment section. If you like the video and you have any ways how we can improve the video, please share it. You can talk to us in private spaces, you can tweet us, you can Instagram us, you can DM us. If you love the show, we can improve it. So thank you very much for being here. I'm your host Phiwe, and we'll be back tomorrow next week with another one. Stay safe. Peace.